Complete Python 3 Bootcamp. This fully updated course is the most popular course on Udemy to help guide you.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm audible?
Yes, you are absolutely
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome you all for this national webinar on teaching with technology. This is the most apt topic right now as we are in the lockdown and everybody is hoping to learn something new. And as teachers, I hope this webinar will help us learn something and implement it in our daily teaching life. To begin with the program, I would request Principal Professor Dr. S.V. Rathod, Bhavans College, to please give the welcome address.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, one and all. I welcome you all, the teacher fraternity, for the jointly organized webinar by Bhavans Hazarimal Somani College of Arts and Science and Jairam Das Patel College of Commerce and Management Studies and Maharashtra College. It is indeed an honor to host this webinar in collaborations with the Maharashtra College on very crucial topic of teaching with technology. Technology is turning educations from teacher-centric educations to both teacher and student-centric education. Virtual classrooms and various online tools today allow us to make the engagement between the teacher and students as close to a real in classroom like experience as possible. Technology based education makes the education system more transparent and equal. Digital education needs a balanced coordination between course content, educationists, technology, course takers, and it can only be successfully implemented with the availability of basic amenities like internet connectivity, availability and affordability of online system, PCs, laptops, software, etc. We can't deny the fact that here in such extreme situations, COVID-19 has only accelerated the adoptions of technology to make quality education accessible to everyone. At the end, I conclude my speech with, due to the COVID-19, technology is a future and it brought us very closer. I am sure that all of us will be benefited from this enlightening session. I wish all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for giving the welcome address. Now I would request Dr. Sirajuddin Chogle, Principal Maharashtra College, to introduce the theme and welcome the participants and the guests. Sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning to one and all. On behalf of Commerce College and Maharashtra College, both of us are neighbors, so it is apt that we have joined together hands for this particular webinar on teaching with technology. Evolving is constant. We always need to evolve. Sometimes it gets accelerated as it has happened now with COVID-19. We as teaching fraternity, we need to now equip ourselves. We are already well equipped with chalk and duster. Now we also need to get equipped with the mode of the teaching aids that are available for e-learning platforms, because in the coming future e-learning would be one of the major platform that will be coming up. So keeping this in mind, both the colleges, we decided to take this particular topic for a webinar. The resource person, Professor Avesh Vorania, who will be with you, is an expert. He's a faculty from the Allana Institute of Management, Mumbai, and he also is a corporate trainer. So we, all of us, hope that in the coming 1 hour, we will be able to learn various methods, modes of teaching students online. This process, which has started, as I said, which has accelerated because of COVID-19, we all of us as teachers, we need to see that in the coming few months, maybe 1 to 3 months, we should be able to handle the tools, learning tools, e-learning tools effectively. And this is one of the assistance that this webinar will be helping you to understand what are the various tools available online which can be used for the teaching process. Hopefully, this webinar will add to your knowledge at the end of the session. With these few words, I thank Dr. Professor Rathore Sahab, Principal of Bhavans College, for having this joint webinar together. And I would at the beginning also thank both the team, Bhavans team and Maharashtra College team, who have been doing a lot of work behind the scene and make this particular event possible. So thank you. I hope that we all will enjoy this particular session, and at the end of it, we'll have extra knowledge that we did not have at the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for giving us insight of the webinar and welcoming the guest. Now, not taking much time, I would call Dr. Manjusha Patwardhan, IQAC Coordinator, Bhavans College, to please come over and introduce our resource person. Manjusha, madam?
Yes, thank you, madam. On behalf of both Bhavans College Chowpatty and Maharashtra College, I, Dr. Manjusha Patwardhan, the IQAC Coordinator of Bhavans College, welcome the guest speaker, Mr. Avesh Vorania, for today's webinar. It is a great honor for me to introduce Mr. Avesh. He is an assistant professor, management educator and trainer at Allana Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. Mr. Avesh has been working on data analytics for the past 10 years. He has conducted many online and offline training programs for MS Excel, Power BI, Tableau, SPSS and SQL. He has started his own venture, Infinity Learning, as a medium to educate the educators of today about the potential of data analytics, data visualization, storytelling, and many other relevant skill sets in today's era. Mr. Avesh was associated with reputed companies like Novasys in the capacity of trainee business intelligence consultant and Wipro Infotech Limited as IT technical team leader. He also has many publications in reputed journals to his credit. We are greatly honored by your presence, sir, for getting the opportunity to be enriched by your valuable insights on the most pertinent topic for the day, teaching with technology. I now invite Mr. Avesh to kindly take over. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
I'm extremely thankful to both the colleges, Bhavans College and Maharashtra College, and the principals of both the college thanks a lot, sir, for giving me an opportunity to interact with such a august audience. People across the nation are watching me, and obviously it makes me nervous, but I am thankful once again. And a special thanks to Professor Abdul Rashid sir, who actually introduced me to this particular world of webinars. I did my first webinar with Maharashtra College, which was on data analysis. There again, I had a very good gathering in terms of the number of people. My only objective with these webinars and through these webinars are to make sure that I'm able to educate people. And I also thank my director, Dr. Bernadette De Silva, from our college, Anjuman Islam's Alana Institute of Management Studies, for always being the motivator behind all the faculties of our institution. She is the one who has actually pushed me to take up this particular topic, teaching with technology. I have also put up a video on my YouTube channel, in fact on the official YouTube channel of our institution as well. I will be sharing all those details during this particular session. Now, without wasting any further time, let's move on to the presentation. So I will be sharing my screen now. I would request Saima ma'am to please let me know if the screen is visible. Is the screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, I have already been given a very good introduction. I thank Manjusha ma'am for introducing me, and I once again thank both the colleges and obviously the Almighty for giving me an opportunity to interact with some of the most intellectual minds across the nation. I'm interacting with faculties who would be very experienced in their job, in their profession, and please take this as an opportunity to change the way we are actually working. Obviously, all of us are very good with the chalk and talk method, but the major challenge that most of our faculty in the nation are facing is how do we migrate our class from the traditional classroom to an online classroom. Now, to begin with, I would like to give you a small perspective about what exactly is the concept of online teaching. Now, online teaching has, it's not that online teaching has not been there in the past. Online teaching has always been there. It's just that because, as Principal Sir rightly said, in fact, both the principals did take that into consideration, that COVID-19 has accelerated the need for us to become equipped with technologies that can change the way we educate our students. Now, not only the students, but even the corporate sector is moving rapidly towards adopting technologies where they can learn from people. Now, as a corporate trainer, I would like to bring one point to the forefront, is that a lot of organizations have been using technology because some of their trainers are not available everywhere, because some techniques are very, very special in certain organizations, and they have always been using online teaching techniques. But with respect to the Indian education system, we have been relying mostly on the traditional classroom. Now, as the traditional classroom, we have been hit by this COVID-19 dilemma, and in this dilemma, we find ourselves in a situation where we are forced to migrate to the platform, which is an online platform. It could be Zoom, it could be GoToMeeting, it could be Meets. All of us are struggling as to which is the best platform to be used. In fact, many of the organizations, many of the colleges and institutions, when they first started delivering their webinars, they were struggling with issues with respect to how to manage people on the online platform, or how should people interact on the online platform. So there are a few things that we need to keep in mind before we migrate to the online platform. Some of them involve understanding technology, and some of them involve understanding the nitty-gritties of implementing the technology. There are two very important parts. The first is understanding the technology itself, and the second is understanding the implementation of technology. Now, most of us have got a situation where we need a lot of approvals to be put in place before we implement all those technologies. So the most important point in any implementation is the speed of implementation. So in most of the concepts of strategic management, we learn that the faster you are implementing, because today it's not about taking putting in a lot of analysis. So as you say, a lot of analysis leads to paralysis. So over analysis leads to paralysis. We can try and implement technologies as and when we require it. So people must have started with free technologies and they would have moved to the other technologies. Now, how do you actually go about with this particular setup? Now let's talk about the tools that we are basically using with respect to our technologies. Now with respect to technology, these are some of the tools that I have outlined that are of key importance in any education system. The first is the cloud storage. Now when you talk about the cloud storage is basically where you can put all your files and allow people from other domains or other places to access your data. It is another way of putting your entire hard drive into the internet. Now obviously a lot of people do not want to use cloud storage because they feel that they are risking their data when they are sharing it with the online world. No doubt that is one major challenge that we face, but with these challenges there are certain advantages as well. Now let me give you a very simple example. I have been using the cloud storage for quite some time now, and we were sent into lockdown on the 16th of March. But most of my data was already on the cloud, barring a few things which I was working on the last minute. Otherwise, more or less everything else was on the cloud with me. Now when my boss says, I need you to do this task, it becomes relatively easier because I already have all that data with me. And very importantly, when you store it on the cloud, it becomes easier for you to share it as well. You can just share the link of that particular file rather than uploading the file directly from your device. And you are not dependent on a particular device. If it was on my hard drive, I would have been dependent on the hard drive. I would have had to pick it up from the hard drive and then share it. The next is virtual classrooms. Now we'll be talking about all these things a little bit more in detail throughout this particular session. When you talk about virtual classrooms are basically where you can shift your classroom from any particular traditional classroom into the internet. So when you shift it onto the internet, it is obviously going to become location independent. When you become location independent, it becomes easier for people to interact with you. That is exactly how international universities work. They are allowing people from various countries to take up their degree courses or their micro degree courses or their diploma courses online. In fact, some of the most useful platforms that we see are the MOOC platforms. MOOC is basically stands for Massive Open Online Courses. Now when you say massive open online courses, massive basically stands for a lot of quantity. You can have people over in terms of lakhs and crores who can interact. Like if you look at some of the very famous platforms internationally, some of them are edX, Coursera, and you have got Udemy, which has been famous because Udemy is like the Tata Nano of massive open online courses. It is very, very popular because of the prices at which it hosts its courses, and you have got edX and Coursera, which are relatively on the premium courses that they host. So we'll talk about these a little bit more in detail later on. Now when I come to the concept of virtual classrooms, one particular platform that stands out amongst all of them is the Google Classroom. Because a Google Classroom allows you to interact with your students in a similar way that you would interact with in a classroom. You have got integration of Google Meets, you have got integration of your Google Drive, you have got integration of Google Slides, so everything is under one roof. Now the question is, which of these platforms should you actually use? You have so many other platforms that are available, but they are all segregated. Google provides you a one-stop shop for all your requirements. There are many other players in the market that provide that one-stop shop. But one thing that I believe as a online educator is that we should pick up the best out of each of these areas, or the best out of each of these particular categories. Now, what do you mean by the best out of these categories? So, for example, when we look at the next segment, that is video conferencing. Right now, the top player in video conferencing is Zoom, the current platform that we are using. Obviously, it has got its own set of controversies. I'm not going to be getting into that. But there are so many other platforms that are available, like Microsoft Teams, Skype, GoToWebinar, Webinar Jam. There are many other platforms. But for video conferencing, a lot of organizations are still using Zoom, despite all the controversies that were surrounding it. The next is the whiteboard. Now, the whiteboard allows you to interact with students the same way you would do on a chalk and duster, using the chalk and duster method in class. So I have a pen tablet that I'm currently using, which enables me to write just as I would write on a simple setup. Now this gives me a little bit more control over the content I want to share with my students. A lot of times we are restricted with the content we want to share online. The reason is because we are unable to write. Most of us use the mouse and it becomes very difficult to write with the mouse. But if you actually have something like a pen tablet, or for that matter, in fact, you can even use a stylus of your phone and connect your phone to become an input to your system. There are softwares that allow you to do that. So now with this COVID-19, a lot of people are stuck, and the Android and iOS platforms are trying to give you integration with your tools that you have in the existing way, where you can actually write it. In fact, in Zoom itself, there is an option where you can share your iPad or iPhone. So when you do that, you can actually try and write on your iPhone, and it will show as though it's basically writing on the whiteboard that you have written. You can even use the whiteboard option inside Zoom itself, which allows you to write and interact with the people. So a lot of people want to use the whiteboard. You have a lot of these softwares that are integrating the whiteboard with a lot of capabilities within the whiteboard. So I'll be demonstrating a few softwares that I use personally, which allows me to work seamlessly with my students as well as my colleagues, or in fact, for that matter, even interact with the corporates. Because when you do corporate training, there's a lot of data that is exchanged between the trainer and the corporate training participants. The next point is, we have a situation where we need to constantly capture data from the users or the participants of our training. And when we need to capture data, we best revert to Google Forms. In fact, I'm sure most of you also would have used the Google Form to interact with the registration platform for this particular webinar and many other webinars. So the amount of data that is being generated through these Google Forms is huge and humongous, especially during this lockdown period, because every day there is some new webinar that's coming in. And if you as an institute or if you as an educator want to capture data, you can best use Google Forms. There are many other tools that are there, like you've got the IPForm as well, you've got SurveyMonkey, but Google Forms are best used because of its latest feature, which allows you as a user to upload files along with your form, which wasn't there before. So in the past, when you used Google Forms, if you have been using it in the past, it was difficult for you to upload a particular file in your Google Form. So especially, this is very good for recruitment purposes. Like if you are running a recruitment drive on your campus and you want to collect every individual's CV or all the students' CV, it was difficult for you to do that because you would have to ask the CR to collect all the data in one file, in one folder, zip it, and then email it to the respective placement coordinator or the placement cell. Instead of that, you can have them fill up a simple Google form, and within the Google form there is a question that you can insert, which allows you to pick up the CV or any other drive, any other file that you want, and that will then be set up on your Google Drive folder. So that folder will contain all your files that have been uploaded, which makes it easier for you. And to make it even more easy, what you could do is you could ask your students to rename their files in a particular format. That becomes easier for you to understand how to work with data. Now my only concern with this webinar is that we have a very short span of time. So I'll not be able to demonstrate all the tools that we can actually work with, but I'll show you some of the tools that can be of great help to you. Sorry. Then the next thing that we'll talk about is video hosting platforms. Now, we have always observed that in many cases, students are not available online. So they are not able to join the live lecture, or even for that matter, today's session. A lot of people would want to refer later on. So I assume that this is being streamed on YouTube. And once this is done, it will be available on the official channel of the institute. I believe it's Maharashtra College. And that will be giving the users who come in later on the ability to watch this particular video again and take advantage of whatever inputs the speaker is giving. So you are able to host your videos on different platforms. Now, which are those platforms? We'll talk about it in detail later on. Let's look at the next category of tools that every educator, modern educator requires. Screencasting. What is the concept of screencasting? Screencasting is nothing but allowing you to record whatever is being done on the screen. And this is best for people who are teaching subjects with technology, or for that matter even teaching maths or science or physics or biology, chemistry, anything. Because you can use a pen tablet, you can illustrate whatever you want to illustrate, you can pick up any image, you could caption it, or you could write on it, and it will be easy for you to work with it. So the students it becomes more interactive for the students. And the beauty about it is you have the entire world's data available to you. You can just Google whatever you want to Google and just get hold of the data. But with respect to your domain, there would be certain platforms that would be specifically very, very good with the content that you are looking out for. So try and identify those platforms. I assume there are certain platforms where you can get good case studies for your domain. So the domain that I belong to is management studies. And most of the case studies that I prefer picking up my case studies from is Harvard Business Review or maybe any other platform. But Harvard Business Review gives me a plethora of case studies and access to most of the cases from all the Ivy League colleges like Stanford, Harvard, for that matter, even Indian top management institutes like IIMA, IIMB, even Hyderabad's college, that's the KBS college. So there are multiple areas from where you can source your data. Now the objective of you is, objective for you should be that whenever you're sourcing your data, please try to identify the authenticity of the data. The reason primarily being, I was attending a case study webinar by one of the colleges from Pune, I think it was IIM CR, and the speaker there, a very reputed speaker, he did mention that today's educator is not only challenged by technology, today's educator is also challenged by the ability that his or her participants have access to technology. Now when that happens specifically, it becomes slightly difficult. It becomes slightly difficult to manage the entire setup. Now what do I mean by that? It basically means that people who do not check their data's authenticity, or for various reasons, even if you're picking up data, please try to credit the sources. Obviously, I'm sure all of you are experienced people who are watching this video. Please do not take it in the wrong manner, but do credit the people you pick up the data from or the material from. That gives a lot of importance with respect to how you are respecting the fact that people have already worked hard to create that content. Okay, so coming back to the concept of screencasting, it basically allows you to interact with your students by creating a pre-recorded video and providing it and hosting it on any platform. Next is learning management systems. Now, when do you think a learning management system is created? When you are able to combine all these technologies together, that is when the entire learning management system comes into existence. Now there are organizations, there are platforms, international and national platforms, that do provide the learning management systems with your own branding possible on everything that's available. Now, let's talk a little bit more in detail about how can we work with cloud storage. Now, assuming that most of us have already worked with cloud storage before, we have got the option to work with Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox and pCloud. So, if you go online and search for the top cloud storage providers or file storage online, I've picked up this data from this link. Maybe you can just click this link later on. I'll share this presentation or this link with you. You can go and check what are the alternatives. Now, the way I prefer looking at my or working with my data is, I'm just going to exit this presentation and go into my Drive. I'm going to the browser. There's a reason for it. Now, if there is anything that is a paid platform, I always prefer going to the website and searching for its alternatives. So the best way is, let's say if I'm looking at Zoom, I'll say Zoom alternatives. And the internet is flooded with material. So the moment you pick it up, obviously you would have these top searches that are available. So I prefer some of these, content from Tech Republic. It's a very good website that gives you information about all technical stuff. Then even gadgets.ndtv is pretty good. So I'm just showing you some of these things that you can work with. Then The Verge is also a good one, Computer World. So these that you see right on top, they are more or less very good platforms to give you some information. So let's click this first link, and the moment I go into the first link, I will be able to see all the information about the top 10 conferencing platforms. And you will see all the options that are available. Now what this does is, this gives you some more information about what you can actually do with the platforms that are available. So similarly, you can go and search for cloud storage alternatives that are alternatives to Google Drive. Now, all these that are available, they are free, but only some of them provide 15 GB, some of them provide 5 GB. You'll have to check out these vendors. All these vendors provide you certain free storage online, but then after that free storage, you will have to purchase your additional capacity online that you want to look for. So personally, I have been using SugarSync. This is a very good platform, but the only problem is this is completely paid. So the advantage here is, say you have got 4 devices. You have a home PC, you have an office PC, then you have got your iPad, and let's say you have your iPhone. Now, most of the times the problem that we face is we are either sitting with either of these devices with us, and we find that if one of these devices has a file, I have to constantly keep sending that file. Let's say there's a file called ABC. Now what I always need to do is I need to keep emailing myself this file. One way is I email it and I can access it from any of these particular places. But the problem is, let's say I have worked on this on 29th of April and I have emailed this on my email address, and I'm able to access these particular files from this file from these devices. Now the challenge is, if I have worked on the 1st of May on this file, okay, and I do not remember or I forget that I have to email it to myself, then what happens is I do not have the updated version on these particular folders, and most of us would have been facing this problem. So what SugarSync does is it synchronizes your file. The moment you make a change on this ABC, it synchronizes this file on all these devices. Now all these storage options that you see here, they have their equivalent web version. So when you say web version, you can only access it from the website or from the web browser. They also have their equivalent desktop version. So when you have a desktop version, what that does is it gives you the ability to access your data from anywhere, and it also synchronizes your data on the desktop. So when you're working with it, you can just install it. I'll just show you an example of it. Now how do you work with it? So I have got my drive, so there's a Google Drive here. Now if I'm working with any of these files, then what this does is it automatically updates it on my particular drive and it keeps it updated. That's the advantage of using any drive on my desktop. That's about Google's, that's about the cloud storage options that we actually have. Next is the concept of virtual classrooms or LMS. Now when you talk about virtual classrooms, you are basically going to be using Google Classrooms, you will be using Moodle, you will be using Teacher Dashboards 365, that's a Microsoft product. So basically this is a Microsoft product. And Google Classrooms is obviously a Google product, it's free, it's available for free. Now the advantage with Google Classroom is you can have your own education suite, education G Suite that is available. And any organization, any institution can go online and register this education G Suite with their own official email address. So you'll be given an admin panel where you will be able to create 50 users. Now let's say you have got 50 staff in your college, you can have 50 users in that one domain. Now say for example, for us it is AIIMS. So we will get an ID that will be anything which will be administrator or something, and it will be at the end, you'll have some ID and then it will be @ followed by your domain name. So maybe it would be abc.com or anything. That is the domain name that's available. So you could have this particular setup, and this is going to give you access to add 50 users. So if you have got a larger campus, maybe you could contact Google and they could give you a larger number of users, but then in that case it will not be free. So you have to coordinate with your tech team and get this done. But this is very useful because this brings everything under one roof. All your G Suite contains all the options like Google Meets, it contains your Google Drive. You can, even without having the official license for Microsoft Office, you can use Google Sheets, you can use Google Docs, you can use Google Slides, and there are so many other options. In fact, for that matter, you also have a product called Google Keep, K-E-E-P. Now that allows you to keep your notes onto one place. So there are so many tools that are available. And then obviously Google Classroom allows you to do a lot of other techniques like uploading your presentation, uploading your notes. Now the biggest challenge that we face as faculty is the inability to get the students' projects or assignments in time for whatever reason. Either they are sick or they have some problems. It could be any issue. In order to tackle that challenge, what you can do is you can create a Google Classroom. Once you create a classroom, you can add all your students to that classroom. Once that is actually done, you have the ability to schedule an assignment submission or a project submission on that platform, which gives you more control over how people will submit it. Not only that, if you go into Google Classrooms in depth, you also have the ability that sometimes what happens with respect to the emails is that the student sends you an email. Now let's take a simple example. The student sends you an email and the student says, "Sir or madam, I have already submitted the file." Now when you have already submitted the file, you tend to forget, okay, the file has been submitted, and you accept it, and then you find there is a problem. Now there is a biggest problem here, which is if you have to suggest any changes, you have to send individual emails to all those students with suggestions. But when you look at Google Classroom, you can suggest all your changes with comments in that file itself, and the student who has logged into your classroom will automatically have that perspective or will automatically understand how that problem needs to be resolved or what should be done to take care of that problem that has been highlighted by the faculty. So you have the ability to send back a assignment with all the revisions that need to be done. So he resubmits it. So in that case, you have got a status where the person has submitted, but it has gone for resubmission. So you can check out these features in Google Classrooms. In the upcoming sessions, maybe later on, I'll be doing a lot of videos on these technologies one by one, so that you will have some idea how these technologies actually work. Then the next one is Moodle. Now Moodle is basically the full form for Moodle is Massive Open Online Development and Learning Environment. Now this gives you the ability, I will demonstrate Moodle to you towards the end when we have some time. I have created my own Moodle setup, and we are also testing it on our organization's platform. Moodle gives you a lot of control on developing everything by yourself. So instead of investing into an LMS, instead of making payments, hefty payments to people to manage your entire data, if you have a good, strong IT team, you can implement. In fact, it's not even required to have a very strong IT team. IIT Mumbai hosts a hybrid FDP. Now I think it will be completely online. I don't know how it actually is done now with the COVID-19 hitting all of us, but it hosts an hybrid FDP where you can actually create your Moodle from scratch with all the training provided by them. Obviously, in addition, you get the certificate from IIT. That's the added advantage. But what I believe is if we are going to implement something, it is important for us. It is important for us to understand and test out our systems before we actually put it into production. Now, why I am saying this, because I belong to an IT background and we've done a lot of implementations in the past. So when Manjusha ma'am was reading out my profile, I was with Wipro for quite some time and I was on different sites. So I've worked with Standard Chartered as well. The amount, why corporates are so successful in terms of the implementation, because they do a lot of testing before they implement. So for us as well, all educators, all the education institutions, we have to get into the testing mode right now as long as we have time. Implementation can happen once testing is done, or maybe we could go for a beta testing. So what is beta testing? Basically, it allows us to test our production systems, or it allows us to test all our learning management systems before we actually implement them for our students. So it's entirely dependent on the institute, what platform they want to go for and how they want to go for it. Do not be bogged down by one particular vendor. Like, don't go for all products from one vendor. It does not really make a difference. Yes, unless and until you are not well equipped with it, then maybe you can take one vendor and you can say, please get all our systems in place, where we have an end-to-end mechanism from the student joining the institution to leaving the institution. So everything is taken care of if you want to integrate. So Moodle allows you to integrate a lot of features into the system. So you can create your own organizational wiki. Now, wiki is nothing but a platform where you can share all your knowledge of the organization. So you can have people interact. You have so many options available. I'll show you what are all those options available in Moodle and how it can benefit. Well, I haven't personally worked with Microsoft Teacher Dashboard 365, so I cannot give a lot of in-depth analysis on it. But I have worked with Google Classrooms and Moodle, so that's my understanding about it. Now, these are basically free, or in fact, Teacher Dashboard is not free. It has some, payment that you need to make, but it can be integrated with your official Microsoft Outlook account if you are working with it. But the ones towards the end, okay, Kajabi, Teachable, Podia, these are all international platforms. Learnist is an Indian platform, or more or less, I think it's a Bangalore-based company. I'm not very sure. But these are the platforms that allow you to create your own LMS on their platform. So they will take care of everything, all the hosting, all the domain name expense, everything will be taken care of by them. You just have to go to their website, create an account. In fact, Learnist provides you with, I think, a 30-day trial, if I'm not wrong. You can try this out. If you feel it's good, maybe implement it. It's very, very important to understand that this is going to be the need of the hour when we move into our regular sessions later on. Because we know from what the situation is right now, we are not going to be able to move into our traditional classroom sessions very quickly. And even if we do that, we know there are going to be a lot of limitations. So in order to take care of all those limitations, and in order to be able to service all our students, because some of the institutions have students in thousands. So how do you handle and reach out to all those students and give them access to all this? You need to have a platform which is robust and which can handle these many students. That's very, very important from our side. So you can obviously have your live sessions and all that on Saima ma'am, there are people who are raising their hands. Can we we'll take all the questions later on. Please keep your questions ready. We'll take them later on. Is that okay, ma'am?
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the session,
we will take your questions later on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so these are the 4 platforms that are available, and some of these are, in fact, all these mostly are used by commercial or when they are looking at commercializing or making money out of their trainings. So if you are basically looking to create content not only for your students but even for people who are in the corporate, like for example, I am in the field of data analytics, so I would use these platforms to create content for people who can access data analytics sessions, and we can make it paid for whatever pricing. Obviously, that can be mutually understood between the institutes and whoever is creating the content. But I'm just giving you the potential of these platforms. You can integrate your payment mechanism, you can integrate your student attendance, you can integrate everything right from the student joining the platform and leaving the platform with certificate distribution, everything. So initially a lot of people had major concerns as to how are we going to deliver certificates to 3,000 participants, 5,000 participants who are actually joining webinars. So for that, Google Forms has got a add-in that is called as Autocrat. I believe now a lot of people are using Autocrat and they are using it very, very nicely. So the integration is such that you join the webinar, you attend the webinar, you fill in the feedback form, and the moment you fill in the feedback form and submit it, after some time you receive a email on your registered email address regarding the certificate. So it's entirely dependent on what platform you use. So I've spent quite a bit of time on virtual classrooms and LMS. Now let's move to the concept of video conferencing. Obviously, a lot of people when we went into lockdown, a lot of people were struggling as to which is the best platform. And surprisingly, Zoom, which was in the was never talked about a lot, has immediately boomed into a $300 billion company because of this. And Zoom is the front runner with respect to all the video conferencing softwares that we can use. So I've just highlighted a few of them. You have got Zoom, you have got GoToMeeting, you have got, so GoToMeeting is basically a product of LogMeIn. This is the parent company. Then you have got Cisco WebEx. Cisco WebEx is a product of Cisco, which is a reputed company in terms of networking. Obviously, Microsoft has got its product Teams, which was formerly called Skype. Now Hangouts is replaced or is now called Meets. So you can use Google Meets as well. Initially, they had it only for people with official accounts, like if you had your own organizational account or a G Suite account, it was working. But now they've made it free for everybody. You can host up to, so basically here you have got capacities of 100, 500, and I think 1,000 and so on. So I think up to 10,000 people can be hosted in this platform. There are pricing ranges. Now, GoToMeeting also has got the similar pattern, like 100, 500, 1,000. Cisco WebEx also has got approximately 250 people that it can host in one particular meeting. Microsoft Teams also has got the ability to host 250 people. Now, all these video conferencing softwares that we use can be categorized primarily, if I would say VC softwares, they would be categorized primarily into two sections. One is the meeting software. So when you say meeting, basically like what we are using right now, we are using the Zoom meeting software. Here it will be a two-way interaction for all the participants. Obviously you can have your set of restrictions where you can mute the people, where you can stop them from screen sharing, where you can allow them recording. All those things can be done. And the second is a webinar. Now in the webinar as well, you can have two sections or two bifurcations. One can be called as an interactive webinar, where you are allowing the participants to interact with the speaker. This is mostly used whenever you are doing hands-on workshops, etc. Whereas the other one is a one-way webinar, where only the person is speaking, and maybe through chats or through the ability to raise the hand, people can interact. So it entirely depends on what is your current requirement. So if you have got a faculty meeting that you want to conduct, it is best to use the meeting tool. So each of these that you see are having the ability to use meeting as well as webinar. So Zoom has got Zoom meeting, and the free version can host n number of people, but there's a limitation of 40 minutes if I'm not wrong. And if you go for a one-to-one meeting, then it can be an unlimited meeting for the free version as well. So for Pro, you don't have any restriction. You have the ability to stream to any of your video hosting platforms like YouTube, or for that matter, you can use io.restream. That's a very good tool. I'll explain it if time is there towards the end of this session. Next is GoToMeeting. That is, LogMeIn has got two products. They've got GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar. Then you've got Cisco WebEx as well as Cisco Webinar. Microsoft Teams is just one software. Within that, you can have a team meeting as well as you can create it as a webinar. Hangouts is now Meets. So Meets can be 250 people in your organization can be there, and you can host up to 10,000 people on Google Meets for free. But configuring it is slightly difficult because you have to bring all those people into one distribution email list and then put them into the invite onto the calendar and then work with. So Google Meets can be scheduled only from the Google Calendar, whereas Zoom and everything can be scheduled and integrated with Google Calendar and all these other aspects. So try to integrate your video conferencing with the calendar. So if I just to the calendar, maybe just show it to you. So when you click this Google Calendar over here, you can create an event the way you want to create it. So let's say I'm creating an event, and here inside this you have the option to add the guest. So if I put an invite over here, let's say I'm just putting my own invite over here, I can just put an invite, and then I have the option to join with Google Meet, or else I can integrate my other options. So here there is just one add Google Meet video conferencing, because I have not integrated any other conferencing option. So if you integrate GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar or anything of that sort, it will actually allow you to integrate. So you can just click this plus icon over here, and you have all these integrations that can work with your Google Calendar. Now, since we don't have time for a lot of demonstration, I just give you information about this. So there are so many other things that you can integrate with your Google Calendar. And what that does is it allows you to share directly. You don't have to wait for people to send you the email to the link or anything. It will automatically be sent. So if you are able to integrate your technologies nicely, well with your data, then it will work out very well with most of your technologies. So integration of technologies is very important. Now the next is the annotation or whiteboard software. Now Windows has got something called as Windows Ink Workspace, which is the native software available in your Windows platform that you use, Windows 10 or whatever. Similarly, when we use Zoom, we have got a whiteboard. Now I'll open up the whiteboard. Is the whiteboard visible? Saimaman, can you please confirm that?
Yes, sir.
Is the whiteboard visible?
Yes.
Okay. So I can interact with. Let's say I'm trying to explain the Pythagoras theorem. I can draw something, and also not just that, you have the ability to draw maybe shapes directly, or anything else that you want to do. You can just use a simple eraser and get rid of your marks that you've created. You can also save the drawings. So the advantage of using a whiteboard or a Inkspace is you can save all your lectures with all the writing. So next time when you have to explain it, you can just explain it. And the advantage also is that you can save it as a PDF. So this is about Zoom's whiteboard. Okay, now I'll go back and share the screen, and I will next show you how to work with the Windows Inkspace. Now at the bottom here you have this option Windows Inkspace. Now if this is not available, you could activate it from your Windows setup. When you click this Windows Inkspace, you have the option for full screen snip and whiteboard. I prefer this, I like using this full screen snip is because say I'm looking at just this particular slide over here. Now what I can do is I can click this full screen snip and it will immediately take a picture or a snapshot of my entire display that I'm working with, and then I can go and maybe if I just want to crop it, I can just maybe crop it to the size that I want to work with. Let's say I'm cropping it to this size over here, and once I do this, I can also just save this. Once I do that, I can go and annotate on this. So I can maybe just say, okay, important point. It's like very interactive. It makes things very interactive. Also, I have got the ability to work with maybe a ruler. So if I want to draw a straight line, I can use the ruler. So there are so many technologies that are available. It's just that we need to find the right technology for our requirement. Also, you can open up a simple whiteboard in Windows. This opens up a simple Microsoft whiteboard, and you can work with your whiteboard over here. Sorry, I just have yeah. So you can open up a simple whiteboard and you can annotate, or you can work with it. You have the ruler, then you have the selection option. You can change the color of the pen. So I'm sure a lot of these demos must have been done for you all as well. But these have their own restrictions. Now, the one that I would want you people to maybe use, or request you people to use, or suggest you people to use, Iris Smartboard is a paid software. So this is available if you buy their product. It's automatically available. Otherwise, you have to pay for the license. But I have been using this Epson Interactive Tools for quite some time, and I just like to give you a quick demo of it. Yeah, so this is the easy interactive tools that we can work with, and you have a similar platform the way you want to work with it. But the advantage here is you can keep adding your number of pages. So I can keep adding my number of pages, obviously, and then I have the option to insert an image if I want to insert any image that I'm working with, or anything of that sort that I want to set up. I can even change the background. I can have a ruled background which gives me more guideline in color. Then I can even if I want to capture something from the camera, I can capture it from the camera, or I can just capture a full screen area, or just a small set of the screen. That can be done. So there's so much that you can do with the technology and the tools that are available today. These are certain just demos of small understanding of how you can work with these tools. Now the next thing that we are going to be looking at is the concept of user input capture. You have got Google Forms, which is the most popular platform that's available right now. Sorry. Google Forms, that is the most popular platform because it's free and it gives you a lot of control over how you want the data to be input. In fact, most of our researcher colleagues or people in the research front are using it. They have been using Google Forms to collect data for their research or any other small researches, or maybe a lot of people use it for their PhD research as well. So it's a very reliable source, and it gives you like for example right now, if there are 1,000 participants also, within a short span of time I could get all your data, unless compared to what we could have done previously. Like if I wanted a form to be filled, I would have to take those many printouts, email them, send you a courier, you fill those and send them back. But now Google Forms has made it so simple that you just create one form, and within a short span of time you can gather so much data. That's how surveys and everything are being done. I don't need to talk a lot about Google Forms because everybody knows about it. But there are few features with Google Forms that allow you a lot of flexibility. One of the features that I personally feel is very good is the ability to upload your files along with your Google Forms. The next is Zoho Forms. Personally, I haven't interacted with Zoho Forms because they are paid. Maybe you could check them out for additional. So mostly Zoho Forms are implemented in the corporate, where Zoho is now becoming one of the sought after cloud ERP setup. So maybe if you have a Zoho cloud ERP setup, then probably that integration would be easier for you to Then you have got Microsoft Forms that can be accessed from any of your registered Microsoft email accounts, and you can create a Microsoft form, and it works similar to Google Forms. Next is Typeform. So personally, Typeforms I feel is one of the most attractive setup in terms of all these forms. It gives you a lot of control over the look and feel. Along with that, there is SurveyMonkey and other options as well. But Typeform I feel is one of the good alternatives. But again, it's a paid version. You can go for it depending on the free one, what limitations are there. You could evaluate them, and then if you feel I want a Typeform, then I can go for it. I have my own website where I'm using my website and hosted it on one of the most famous platforms which all of you would be aware of, WordPress. Now in WordPress there is a feature which gives you something called as WP Forms. Now these WP Forms is basically a plugin or an add-in that you can add to your website, and these forms will give you it will work similar to Google Forms, etc. You have a lot of customization possible in this. So again, it keeps sending you an email every time somebody uploads some data. So WP Forms is also very good, where you can work with. If you have your own website and you want to use WP Forms, you can use it. Now the advantage of all these user input capture mechanisms is you can embed the links of all these inside your own website. So how do you do that? Maybe if we have a session which is going to be a full-fledged training session, probably I'll show you how that is done. So you have an embed link that you can embed into your own website, and instead of them going to Google and clicking and going to that particular form opening on another window, they can fill it inside your own website itself. So it will be embedded. It will be as it is a part of your own website itself. Obviously, you will have the advantage of using the backend of the of Google, but you will have the form directly with yourself. It's entirely dependent on what best you feel suits for your what is best for your organization. Then the video hosting platforms. Now, when you talk about the video hosting platforms, you are basically talking about platforms that are set up in a way where you can host your videos without having to worry about space online, without buying a domain name or anything. Now, if you are hosting a YouTube video, you are not paying for the hosting, you are not paying for the domain name, like you are not owning youtube.com, but YouTube provides you a platform to host your videos and also gives you the opportunity to make money. So a lot of youngsters today you see are hosting their own videos on YouTube, they have their channel. So every organization or institute should have their own YouTube channel where they are talking about their own activities, what they are doing, what webinars they are conducting. Maybe they can host their own webinars, like I think what Maharashtra College is doing right now. So last time I hosted it on my own platform, my own organization's official YouTube channel. That gives you a lot of advantage over having to host on your own platform. The reason is, when you host a video, these videos are very heavy in terms of the amount of space they require online. So you leave that to YouTube, and because YouTube and Google, they have got data centers sizes of football fields, huge and very huge data centers. In fact, if you go online and you search something on YouTube where you say YouTube or Google data center, you will actually come to know how huge those data centers are. Even for that matter, Facebook, you can have your own Facebook page, you can host your videos there. So you have these platforms available, and these platforms give you the ability to host all these videos absolutely for free. Now, for some reason, if you feel that no, I think that my organization's data should stay within my organization and should be only restricted to my students or my faculty, then you can use the option which is called YouTube Private. That means there will be a link generated for that playlist or that particular video that can be shared with all the people who are the stakeholders, and they will then use that link to access that particular video on your channel, or maybe even a live stream that you're doing. If you want to restrict it to particular people, you can do that. There is another platform which is a paid platform, Vimeo. you can check this platform out as well. Even though I haven't used the paid version, I've just tried out the free version. It's absolutely fantastic in terms of the control it gives over your data. You do not have people, the public, the general public cannot access it till they have a Vimeo account or any other thing. But yes, if you make it public, if you embed it, then it's a different thing. But you have a lot of options where you can host your platform or you can host your videos. Now, whatever I have spoken in this particular presentation, I have spoken most about open source or free softwares. So try to use free softwares and see if you can save up on the cost. Obviously, if you don't have the expertise, then probably you'll have to go for a paid version where you have people giving you support and everything. But do remember, all these open source softwares have a very strong community behind them. So if you have even a little bit of knowledge and you're stuck up somewhere, you can go online. There are forums, there are communities for all these softwares. Like you would have something like a community.zoom.us or a community.movavi.com or something of that sort. There will be somebody who will be able to answer questions. And whenever you have a query, I think Google is one of the best platforms that people resort to. Take it, go to it, and see what solutions you can find. And one good practice is, if you find a solution to a problem, try to share it on your LinkedIn or maybe on your Facebook, somewhere where people are going to look at it. Because if you belong to the academic fraternity, everywhere, at every point in time, people will face issues. And if you are able to provide a solution, if you become a solution provider through any of your forums or any of your discussions, that is an added advantage. People will interact with you. They will want to associate with you because you are a solution provider. Obviously, we've heard all these things and this philosophy many a times, but today the need of the hour is to have as many technology evangelists that we can have in this fraternity. Because our fraternity is one, the academic fraternity, where we have always focused on building the academic prowess, and we have left the technology to the other people to handle. But right now we are at a point where we have to balance both the things. We are obviously required to focus on the academic aspects, but when you start building your technology aspects, that's when you will emerge as the modern educator after this entire thing falls out. And do not be under the impression that this is going to be, this will be put in the back burner later on. People are now starting off, this is the beginning, and there is going to be a very, very high demand for technology professionals in the future, where people will be required, not just in the academic sector, but even in the corporate sector, where all the people handling their teaching and learning and our L&D department, that is learning and development department, they will need to incorporate all these technology aspects to make sure that the participant of that training gets access to all the content that the speaker or the resource person is going to be. In fact, everyone wants to have access to content, but how you deliver that content to your participants is key to your implementation setup. Okay, now let's talk about screencasting. So I have used Camtasia, I have used Movavi, and I have used Zoom as well for recording my videos. Now what I found out was one of my Facebook friends has been using OBS Studio for his trainings, and what I realized is, again, OBS Studio is open source, absolutely free, no payments. It gives you a lot of control. Like for example, I am explaining something here and I would want a ticker to be running below this. Like I want you to subscribe to my channel, or I want you to buy my product. I can have a ticker. I can have a ticker that will run from one end of my screen to the other end, which basically engages the reader, and it allows you to interact with the reader on two fronts. One is through your voice, and second is through the text that you are posting. So what that does is, it essentially keeps reinforcing your concepts, reinforcing whatever you want to put it through. This is one technique that a lot of marketing people use. So when they have a webinar, they keep running that ticker, register now, 50% off, limited edition, or etc. whatever. So it can be used as a marketing technique. Maybe if you're running an admission webinar, you could run this and you could say, okay, register on this link. It depends on how you want to use it. Okay, Camtasia and Movavi are obviously very good in their own fields, but when you talk about 4K recording, because nowadays everybody is talking about 4K recording, this is the currently at least one of the highest specifications in terms of video resolution, which gives you clarity on your system. Okay, when somebody watches it, it gives you more clarity. OBS supports 4K. Movavi, I think, has come up with 4K as well as Camtasia. But the only concern is when you are recording 4K, your screen and your graphic card should support 4K recording. If not, I would recommend at least bare minimum to record in Full HD. Now what is Full HD? Full HD is 1080. This is the pixels, okay, 1080. This means why I am recommending Full HD? Because if we notice the revolution that has happened in the mobile platform or the mobile devices, all iPads, tablets, everything, they are now focusing on, obviously some of them already have 4K screens, but most of them now are migrating from the HD ready. HD ready is basically when you talk about 720p to 180p. So a lot of devices are now supporting 1080p. And I'm sure if you are a proud user of a full HD display phone, you would like to watch your, even your education videos in full HD. So if you record in full HD, you have the advantage to scale down. But if you record in 720, you don't have the advantage. You cannot scale up. If you record at a higher pixel or at a higher resolution, you can always scale it down. So for some reason, if you are catering to rural areas, if you're catering to people in the remote villages, there the bandwidth may be not very good. So it will automatically scale down. But if you are in Mumbai or in Pune or in any of the metropolitan cities, maybe Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, or these places where you have good bandwidth and the students can access it. So if you record it in full HD, even if they watch it on their laptop, or for that matter, if they are, if they have a smart TV and they're streaming your data or they're streaming your videos on a full HD screen or maybe a full HD projector, then it gives a good impact. It gives a good impact because when you stream data with good visuals, people are more engaged in your talk rather than streaming with a lower resolution. And another very important thing is I have done a full video on teaching in times of Corona on my YouTube channel with regards to the hardware that I'm using. So in this session, I'm only talking about the software tools. Maybe if we have the time, you can go and check up my video on my own YouTube channel. And in fact, our official YouTube channel also has got a lot of videos, in fact 2 or 3 videos on how you can implement these technologies. So I'm going to be doing full videos on our official YouTube channel, which is the Anjuman Islam's Alama Institute of Management Studies YouTube channel. I'll share that link with you. And last is Zoom. Zoom also allows you to record your screen. So right now also I think people may be recording the video and it may be streamed live or whatever options you have to stream and then save it onto some platform. But Zoom was not built to record videos or screencasting. It was not embedded with all those functions. It can be it is a secondary option. So primarily Zoom is a video conferencing software, not a screencasting software. But yes, you can use Zoom. You can maybe free version of Zoom is also available. If you're not comfortable with Camtasia, Movavi, because what happens is these softwares have a steep learning curve. You have to spend more time understanding the software. But Zoom is relatively easy for you to understand. You can just download Zoom, start your single meeting with a meeting alone by yourself, and start recording and start speaking to the system itself. I know it sounds a little difficult. Initially, when I started making my YouTube videos for my YouTube channel, I also found it a little difficult where you're speaking to the screen. But do remember, a lot of people have helped learning community, not just academic. I'm talking about the entire learning community. There are so many things people are learning online. Today, even if you have to change one single screw in your house, or if you're stuck somewhere, what you try to do is you go online and you say how to do this. For example, a lot of people are, I know I'm diverting from the topic, but a lot of ladies today in this lockdown period are learning how to cook, how to make good dishes. So they just go, like if they want to make pasta, they go how to make pasta. Similarly, you can create content for viewers who are ready to interact with your content. So there is a lot of demand for content, and if you are in a niche, like supposing you are teaching a subject which normally not anybody normally you don't find videos easily, you can create content for it, and you may not get a mass following, but you can at least get the niche. You can target the right people. So when you do niche targeting, you have to be creating content for that particular setup of people. Okay, so again I said Zoom is a secondary option. Well, that's it for this presentation. I will give you a quick demo on the LMS. Saimama, do we have time for that?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'll be going into the LMS that I have created. Okay, so this is the Moodle LMS. So my platform is called Infinity Learning. I am going to be creating content for data analytics, Excel. So right now there's nothing over here, but just to give you a look and feel of how this is done. Now you would notice it is hosted on my own platform. So similarly, your organization can host it on your platform. So you will have your own platform. There's a way you do it. It's not just directly done. You have to install it on your server and everything. Maybe you need more technical expertise on that. So how do you go about with setting this up? You can actually go about with setting this. When you click this over here, you have got dashboard, the site home, the calendar. So when you have the calendar, you can see exactly what's there. One place you as a faculty can create your content, create your courses. So you have this option here, which is the site home. Now I have logged in with the admin. So this is like the super user. Now I can create multiple users in my site, or I can just create a course directly for this particular user, and I can share it with all the other people as well. Now this is a test development site, so relatively it's a little slow, but you can create a new course over here. Once you create the course, you can set up the course how you want it to be in a topics format. You want it in a weekly format, like you want it to roll out weekly. So for example, this week you have one lecture, next week you have one lecture. It will automatically roll out based on the weeks. So you set up a starting week and an ending week, and you set up the number of sections or number of weeks of data. I'm not going to go into a lot of details of this. Then you can also set the site upload limit. So you have maybe if you want your students to upload videos, or you want your students to upload their files, you can set this up as to what is the files and upload sites for this particular course format. Okay, then completion tracking, you can enable completion tracking, how many students have completed a particular assignment, or how many students have completed their particular project, etc. Then if you want to force language, you can force the language as English, because I have anyways set it up as English. This is an international platform, okay, and a very, very powerful, vivid community for Moodle is available. They have their official YouTube channel as well. You can do a lot of things on Moodle, okay. Then once you have created this, you can create multiple types of lessons in this. Now I'll show you what you can do basically just in site administration. So when you go to the site administration option, you can actually create users who can be students, who can be faculties. You can import data. So here you have got all the analytics, whatever is happening, and this keeps updating. Okay, mind you, it keeps updating. So you will have to keep updating your Moodle on your setup. If you have a mobile app, what settings you want for your mobile app, what should be the appearance, the logo, everything can actually be set up the way you want it to be done. Okay. Then how the messages should be sent to the students. So what is the emailing technique? You can set up your email inside this, and automatically when you want to send an email, it will send an email from your ID. Now, how do you want the registration? So if I click registration here, currently I can register my site on Moodle, and then it will automatically pick up this particular sites that is available on Moodle. So when people go to moodle.com, they can see your site registered there. Next is users, where you can create a set of users who can interact with your Moodle platform. You can set permissions, you can give roles to people. So there's a lot of things that you can actually do in terms of privacy policy as well, how you want it to be done. Okay, then next is how do you want your courses to be set up? Where do you want to back up your courses? Because obviously you would want to keep backups that will be done. So you want automated backup setup, or you want a asynchronous backup setup, or you want a manual backup, all these things. So you need some sort of technical expertise to work with this particular tool. Okay, and how do you want the grading to be done? So what kind of grading are you going to be doing? So you can set it up here. Okay, then how do you want the report to look? What will be the grader report looking like? So students per page, what is the setup that you want for the grades? Do you want to show the calculations for each grade? Do you want to see the analysis? So all those options are available. Now do remember that this is the administrator's ID. That is the reason you are able to see all these things. So every role that you set up, like under users, when you set up the roles, when you define the roles, once you have defined, like you have got manager, course creator, teacher, non-editing teacher, student, guest, authenticated user, you can add a new role as well. So all of these people have got different levels of assignments. Okay, so allow role assignments. So now here you can choose what role do you want to give to each of these users. So manager can be given these options, like he can become a student, he can become a non-editing teacher, he can even change to teacher, course creator. All these options are available to you to work with. Okay, then do you want to allow any role overriding? So you can allow the role overriding, basically, which means that if you want somebody to override a role and move to a different role, that is possible. Do you want to allow role switches? So you can set up your role switches and all these things available. So I'm focusing more on roles because it is important for the people who are going to be administering the site to understand all these things. Again, you have plugins. Yes, you have a very good option where you can set up plugins. Some things may not be available. Like I think the plugin for your attendance is directly not available. You could set up attendance also as a plugin. You can import those things inside your setup. How do you want to manage your enrollment? Okay, so self-enrollment. So now here, do you want people to be allowed to self-enroll? Like you can come to my website and you can directly enroll using your your email address and all those things. And then how do you want the enrollment for this particular course to work, or any course that you're working with? All those things are possible using various plugins, and there are so many plugins that are available. Blocks and whatever categories are available, you can search for them. And if you're looking for a particular plugin, then maybe you could go online and just search for it, download it, and upload it to your website. I know what I'm saying right now sounds, it's sounding that, oh, it's very easy, but it's not that easy. It takes some time and it takes a lot of effort to set it up. But believe me, once it is set up, then you don't have to do anything. You just have to keep creating courses and keep registering. And the advantage is this is going to be there on your website every time. So according to NBA and NAC, whichever authority or whichever regulatory body you're supposed to follow, you will be having the ability to customize it every year. So maybe you're supposed to incrementally do things, you can do that every time. Okay, then how do you want the appearance? You want to set up logos, you want to change the colors. So these are all aesthetic aspects of your website. Then how do you want the server tasks? So which is going to be the outgoing email? So whenever somebody sends an email from this website, which is going to be the outgoing email? How do you handle messages? All these are there. I think there is also an integration of SMS in this, but you need a separate plugin for that. How do you want the reports to be seen, and what is the live logs, etc. And then how do you want your development? So you can even, if you're good with it, you can even develop your entire Moodle a platform on an ASP.NET or whatever platforms that are available like PHP, SQL. So these are certain ways you can work and interact with Moodle. I think it's already 12:30. Ma'am, we can take questions if you want now.
Yes, sure, definitely.
I'm just going to stop the sharing of my screen.
We request all the participants to type their questions in the chat box. And sir, I would request you to take the questions from the chat box.
Yeah, we can do that. I
Yeah,
think that's
okay.
also
Fine. Also, I'll be having some questions from the YouTube
Yes.
live
So,
stream.
ma'am, I
feedback
think it will be
Yeah.
great if you can just post the questions and then I'll answer the questions.
Yes, yes, definitely. By the time people here on Zoom can type in their questions,
Yes.
and then so you can take those questions. By the time I take the
Perfect.
questions from the YouTube link.
And I am extremely thankful to all those people who are giving their feedback saying it's an excellent session. I am very happy that people did enjoy the presentation, because when I started the presentation I thought maybe a lot of people did know a lot of these technologies, but yes, a lot of people are saying that no, they did not know these technologies. So again, I thank Maharashtra College and Bhavans College for giving me this opportunity, and I thank my organization, Anjuman Islam Zalana Institute of Management Studies, and my director, Dr. Bernadette De Silva, for allowing me to be a part of this webinar. Yes, please, yeah, a lot of people are saying please share the PPT. I will share all the links if you want. I can share all the links that are there, and I already have something similar to what I discussed as a YouTube video. I'll share a link to that as well. Now, ma'am, the only problem is it's difficult to read because a lot of people are putting in their comments as well.
Yeah, actually, I'm also trying to find out if there is any question here. So if in case, there was one question up here. Somebody asking what is the capacity of Google Meet?
Yeah, okay. So Google Meet, the capacity is 250, and you can have live streaming up to 10,000 people in Google Meets. But that is only if they are from your own domain. They have not opened it up for everybody. But one workaround that I found was, if you want to have more than 250 people you want to stream to, you can add them to your invite list. Maybe that is one way you can do it. That was a workaround that I found.
There is one question again here.
Yes, ma'am.
I got it from YouTube. Then
Yes.
Mr. Taiba Sheikh, she is asking, there are lots of rooms and classrooms which are available and they have different topics. So she's asking how can we pack one from them, or how can we choose one from them?
Yeah, so basically she's talking about the softwares that are there. Now, with respect to software, you will have to, since right now we have time, you will have to go through each of these softwares, test them out, and see what is the best and the most important feature that you like. Like for me, I feel whiteboard is an important feature. Google Meets has got the whiteboard feature, but I'm not very impressed with it. So I prefer using Zoom. Similarly, you will have to decide which is the most important feature. The ability to share files, like Google Meets does not have the ability to share files within the session itself. But they are planning to integrate it, or they have already integrated it. I am not very sure, because the last time I used Google Meets, it was not available. But now they must have integrated it. Now what is happening, a lot of these tools that are coming up, or that are already there, they are trying to integrate all the features that are required, and they also give priority to features. So they have a set of people who analyze their target audience, like Google Classroom. Google Classroom can be used specifically by the academic fraternity, or it can be used by the corporates as well. And what is your important feature that you are looking at? So which is the next best virtual classroom for apart from Google Classroom? Now again, virtual classrooms you can create a virtual classroom using any other tool, but then you have to integrate it. So when you say virtual classroom, there are two types of trainings that we do. One is called a synchronous training, which is something that we are doing right now, where the speaker speaks and you interact live. The second is asynchronous training. Now, asynchronous training is basically when you record your videos, you put everything in one pack, and you upload it on the website. So somebody creates a login ID and password like Moodle. Moodle is an asynchronous platform. But that also can be created into a synchronous platform where you have, say for example, you have got 10 sessions in your class. So I just share my whiteboard. Now let's say you have got 10 sessions in your classroom and you decide that after 5 sessions, you are going to interact with your students. So maybe after every 5 sessions, you will have a live session. So you can integrate this live session using anything. You can do it using Google Meets, you can do it using Zoom, anything. And integrate that with your Moodle. So this is hosted on Moodle, okay? And what you can do is, you can integrate Moodle with Zoom. So you have an integration with Zoom. So whenever you create an event, on the calendar in Moodle, then what happens is, it allows you to set up the Zoom calendar there. Okay.
Okay. I think this answers the question.
Yes.
So there's another question here. Mr. Goraknath Karade is asking, and I suppose Abdul Rashid sir also, that kindly recommend best pen tablet online with the costs.
Okay. So I have a blog that I have done, with which I am using. So I'm currently using XP Pen tablet. Now there are two types of tablets. One is a tablet which has got display. So this is with display. Okay. And there is another tablet which is without a display. Without display basically means you have to have. It has got a very steep learning curve. Let me just quickly share the browser and. Yeah, so if you go online and you look for pen tablets, two of the most widely used pen tablets are by one company, which is Wacom, and the other company is XP Pen. And there are many other companies that are there, like Huawei and all that. But I prefer using the XP Pen tablet because that has got a display, and you have displays, like these are all pen tablets. So some of them, like this one, does not have a display, which means when you're writing, you will have to keep looking at the monitor and then write. So it takes some time for you to work with it. What I am basically looking at or using is something like this, which has got a display. So when you have a display, you don't have to constantly look at the monitor, and the calibration is very difficult to do without display. Obviously, you have to shell out a little bit more money, but if you can work with without display tablet and you can learn the entire curve, or you can take the learning curve and go through with it, then it's nothing like it. It's not difficult, but it's not very easy as well. It depends on you how you want to use it or what you want to use it. Can we take the next question now?
Yeah, so there is a question which says that, so would you please explain in brief about the EdFly Learn LMS?
Which Learn LMS?
EdFly, LMS, which is, I suppose, by EdFly.
EdFly. Okay.
Yeah.
I am extremely sorry. I haven't worked with that LMS, but I would need some time to evaluate the LMS and then get back, because I think I've heard of this EdFly. EdFly is a paid LMS, if I'm not wrong. It's a paid LMS, and I haven't had the opportunity to interact with it because I prefer using as much open source as possible. Because what that does is, whenever you are working with an open source platform, you are not locked in with a particular vendor, and that gives you a lot of flexibility to integrate other platforms. If you're locked in with a vendor and you want to integrate your platform with some other platform, you may not have those compatible plugins. And when you don't have the compatible plugins, it becomes frustrating when you want to integrate. So for example, like this is a collaborative session. Now, if it was on a platform which was a vendor locked platform, then integrating Bhavan's College with Maharashtra College would have become a slightly difficult task, because they would be on different platforms. But now, since they're on the same platform, which is a universal platform, it becomes easier. But yes, I'll check up EdFly and maybe I can get back to them.
Thank you, sir. There's again a question which says, which is better, using Google Classroom or Moodle?
Okay, now Google Classroom is good for beginners. If you are a beginner, if you are planning to do it independently, like say the organization says, no, everybody is supposed to have their own Google Classroom and submit their Google Classroom code to all the students so that they can, have it, then Google Classroom is a great way of working with it. But if you want to do it at an organizational level, then Moodle is very good because there you can be an administrator for all the courses that you have within your organization. Like you have departmental wise, you can create categories. I didn't have time to show that because I haven't created anything. But if you look at a full-fledged LMS on Moodle, this is the advantage. You can have categories. A good example of an LMS would also be Udemy. Like if you go to Udemy, you have categories. Obviously, it's a very large scale tool, and the scale at which they are working is way beyond the imagination that they are working, and the way they have expanded it is commendable. With so low cost pricing, 300, 400 rupees for a international level certification. Obviously, it becomes difficult to understand and analyze which one to pick, but then you have to go by reviews and all those things. Maybe that's something that can be spoken about some other time. But to answer your question, LMS was Moodle versus Google Classroom. Google Classroom, if you're doing it at an independent level, go for it. If you're doing it at an organizational level, go for Moodle. Next question, ma'am.
This answers the question. Next question is there's someone asking, please suggest a good online tool for teaching practical subjects like accounts.
The best thing, buy a pen tablet and start teaching using whiteboard because that is the best way to learn with it. And the advantage is you have everything available there. So if you are wanting a calculator or something, see, it becomes difficult to teach subjects where you need to write and explain. Otherwise, you can use Excel and screencasting and explain it. It's entirely dependent on you. If you want the students to learn the working of accounting, see, I'm not from the accounts stream. What I feel is whenever you're talking about any mathematical subject, you would want to explain step by step. Now, let me give you a simple example. I'll just pick up an example from maybe our classrooms that we learned as kids. Now, supposing I want to explain BODMAS. So I'll say, okay, students, this is the concept of BODMAS. Bracket of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. This becomes easier for me to explain because if I say 2 plus 4 plus and then in the bracket 8 minus 5, etc. So what I'll say that whatever is in the bracket will be, so this is more interactive. You will have a better conceptual understanding as a student than me directly putting it. Otherwise, what you can also do, you can use PowerPoint and you can put this step by step, but that becomes tedious. It takes up more of your time. If you want to save time, best is use your pen tablet and then work with it. We can take the next question.
The participant says that can a live session be hacked, and what about its security options that we can take?
Okay, so with respect to Zoom, there were a lot of situations where live sessions were hacked into it, but they have integrated the security feature where you can lock the meeting. And with respect to YouTube and everything, you are just streaming. So nobody can really hack into it and get into the input because nobody knows where it is being streamed from. It goes through multiple servers. Obviously, somebody who has a negative intention can do it anyhow. But these are certain security measures that you can actually work.
I hope this answers the question.
You should lock your meeting. Whenever you have all your participants inside, just lock the meeting. That gives you more control and more security. And enable the waiting room feature in Zoom. That is one thing you should always do. Do not forget to enable the waiting room feature because in settings, you have the option to enable the waiting room feature. Sorry ma'am, next question we can take up.
Again, there is a subject related question as in best tools for teaching chemistry, then social science, and
okay. Now, to answer that question, I am not very well equipped with my knowledge right now. The reason being, I am not from the stream, so I have not really researched. So for us, in management studies, we deal with mostly case studies and presentations. For you, what you can do is maybe you can search for videos online and explain them through those videos all these things, because people have already made a lot of videos. So chemical structures and all these things. Whilst you're explaining the concept, maybe you could download one of the videos or you could live stream one of the videos inside your live classroom, and then maybe you could pause it, and if you want to explain something, use an annotation tool that, okay, this is the, like supposing you're talking about biology, you're explaining the heart, you're playing a video, you pause the video, use the annotation tool and explain it there itself, and then take a screenshot of it and send it to your students. In that way, what will happen, the ability to retain is higher than anything else. For chemical structures also, I think maybe you can follow the same way. So use a combination of all these things. In fact, I would also talk about for people who do not have access to their laptops or things, you can even use your mobile phone to record videos with screencasting. There is an option which says screen recorder. You can download it. You can have voiceovers. So voiceovers are basically, whilst the screen is being recorded, you can have a voiceover, you can speak, and everything will be recorded with it. There will be an MP4 file or a video file created, and you can upload it to YouTube directly from your mobile phone. You are not dependent on any other, hardware that you would require. So these are also things that you can do. Next question, ma'am.
So there is this, like, which screencasting software is better? As in, it is OBS or Camtasia?
Okay, Camtasia is a paid one, and OBS is free. So obviously, if you're looking for a free software, OBS is great to work with. If you're looking to have more features, OBS is then also very, very useful. But if you're looking for editing features, then go for Camtasia. And the advantage of OBS over Camtasia is Camtasia does not allow live streaming, whereas OBS is one of the most sought after tool for live streaming, with a lot of options for, supposing your mic is not very good and there's a lot of background noise. In fact, if you're using a good mic, it even picks up the noise of the fan, so you can hear that whirring sound. In OBS, you have these options for noise filters and all these things that can be integrated, and they're very powerful ones. So there's a lot of plugins and a lot of things that you can integrate in OBS. Because it's open source, anybody can create anything for it. But Camtasia, you have to wait for the next update if there's a problem in the current update. So that way, OBS is good if you know how to use technology and know how to use these softwares. Otherwise, if you want a shorter learning curve, you can just go in for Camtasia. But what I recommend is, a good thing would be to learn OBS. It's not difficult, but it's very powerful when compared to anything else in terms of screencasting. Yes, ma'am. Can we take the next question?
So I think we are done with the question and answer.
Okay.
The session was all like very explanatory because the questions that we got, I suppose there's one question here. The Google Drive gets updated automatically?
Yes.
Can you access from all
So basically, what happens with Google Drive is there is the web version and there is the version which allows you to install the software on the desktop. Just like any other software, you can install it on the desktop and it will sync. Like if you're able to see my screen, I'll just share my screen right now. Okay. At the bottom, I see this area at the bottom over here.
Yeah.
At this area, like now, I have basically got something that's happening on OneDrive. Now, when I click this, it is automatically syncing all my folders. So the teaching PPT that I was just using, it is uploaded to this folder, and from here I can share it with anybody. So if I just click this option here, this link, it will open up that particular folder that I'm working with. That's the advantage. And also, this is OneDrive. I also have Google Drive. I also have SugarSync. So you can use multiple cloud folders or multiple cloud options. It's entirely up to you.
Okay. So I think we covered all the question and answer, and I'm very thankful, sir. We could take all the questions, and then the session also like would get completed.
Ma'am,
To
just
end,
one thing,
yeah.
there are a lot of people raising their hands. I mean, is that they're not able to type or what?
No, but I don't have any questions right now in the chat box.
Okay, then that's perfectly
Some other
fine.
query we will just
Sure.
see to it how it is. Okay. For all those participants who are asking as to how the slides will be shared and the video, I would just like to say that the entire session video will be available on the Maharashtra College YouTube channel. So as after the session gets over, you can visit YouTube, type Maharashtra College, and you can access the video and also subscribe to the channel because all the webinars that we've been conducting and other subject related videos are available on the channel. So you can take full advantage of that. To end with the session, I would request Dr. Abdul Majid Ansari, Vice Principal, Maharashtra College, to please take over and deliver the vote of thanks. Majid sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It is indeed a great honor for me to present formal vote of thanks for this webinar, Teaching with Technology. All of us know that current pandemic situation has created many challenges and raised many questions regarding many areas. One of them is the effectiveness of the traditional teaching methods. Today's webinar has really thrown a light on the new methods, particularly teaching with technology, and it has also shown the easiest and possible ways out. It is said that out of intense complexities, intense simplicity emerges. Quran says, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. So verily, with the hardship, there is relief. Verily, with the hardship, there is relief. गालिब ने भी कहा था कि मुश्किलें इतनी पड़ी मुझ पर कि आसान होगी. In the current complex situation, today's webinar with Professor Avesh, who has guided us in a very thoroughly and informative way the many solutions, particularly teaching with technology. I, on behalf of the two colleges, Bhavans College and Maharashtra College, say that it takes a genius to make something simple. Professor Avesh has really made the things very simple. Though many people are frightened to learn many things with technology, but after attending this session, we feel that we can also do it and we can do it very easily. So I, on behalf of the two colleges, the two principals and the teaching faculty, say big thanks to Professor Avesh. Sir, शुक्रिया तेरे आने से रौनक की महफिल तो बढ़ी. शुक्रिया तेरे आने से रौनक की महफिल तो बढ़ी, वरना ये महफिल जज्बात अधूरी रहती. Thank you sir so much for your very elaborative, nice and guiding presentation.
Thank you, sir. I thank everyone for their feedback. I'm really happy I was able to deliver this.
Learned many things out of it.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm thinking now to start doing it personally.
Inshallah.
Now, I will not be, I'll be failing in my duty if I will not say thanks to Dr. Principal Rathore for his consent for this joint webinar and for giving the guidance to all of us right through from the beginning. Thank you very much, sir, Rathore sir, for your guidance and permission. I also say thanks to Dr. Sirajuddin Chowle, our own principal of Maharashtra College, who has been guiding force to us. He's been motivating us in all the webinars and this particular webinar also. Thank you, sir, for your guidance and motivation. For their tireless and tireless work and efforts, I would say big thanks to Dr. Manjusha and Dr. Rakshanda Hani, the two conveners of the two colleges. They are also IQAC coordinators of the respective colleges, so they know the importance of this change situation, and the learning with technology and teaching with technology is so important. So I thank both of them for their continuous effort and making this webinar a grand success. I also say thanks to two coordinators of four coordinators rather, two from each college, Dr. Sandeep and Dr. Kiran from Bhavans College, and Dr. Mazhar Thakur and Professor Ismail Popatia from Maharashtra College for their efforts for this presentation very successful. Thank you all of them. I also thank all the members of the webinar committee. Right from day one, they have been putting their efforts in, and they have been working day in and day out for making this program webinar a grand success. Thanks to the entire team for putting their efforts. Now, last but not least, I also say thanks to all the participants for the enormous response which Maharashtra College and Bhavans College joint webinar got, and in a very short span of time, we got very tremendous response from all the participants. I'm sure they must have learned many things out of this particular webinar, and we are looking forward from Professor Avesh and even the participants that in the future we'll also have same type of response from all of them. Once again, thank you one and all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful vote of thanks, and thanks to you also for being part of the web organizing team and working with us jointly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Avesh, sir. Just a small instruction for the participants. All the participants will be receiving the feedback link, which will also be the attendance link by 9 p.m. today. We'll be sharing it in the Telegram group, as well as we'll be sending a mail to the registered participants. So please fill in, because the link will be active for only 1 hour after sharing. And I request all the participants to fill in the link when you receive it. And thank you everyone for joining us here. Thank you, Avesh sir. Thank you, Principal sir. Thank you, Manjusha madam. Thank you everyone. Manjusha madam, shall we? Bindu madam, shall we end the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Avesh sir, once again.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We've learned so many things from you, Excel and now online teaching. Thank you so much.
I will continue to provide my support to the academic fraternity whenever it is required.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you so
Avesh,
much.
you are about to announce something from your side.
Yes.
The events you are going to organize.
Yeah, so we are also going to be having a lot of webinars later on regarding data analytics for using Excel, R, everything. So I will share the links with whatever webinars we'll be having, and I'll be creating a webinar Telegram group as well. It can be shared on your group so that they can join it and they can be part of the future webinars by our institution as well.
Sure, definitely. We look forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone.